Mike Draco, quick on the trigger tonight. Big D checking in from Rango, Illinois. Glad you guys are back. Mr. Rob Nussbaum in the house. That's right, do not adjust your set. This is not an illusion, not a flashback. Cannonball Chronicles. Getting ready to go live in 4 minutes with a recap, bunch of history, some great announcements. Chris Simmons, good to see you here. Dan Duggan checking in with us. Don Gilmore, I know that guy. Happy New Year, Don. David Crum with us. Marty Zavakos. Nancy Keener in the house. Maryland, well represented. Woohoo, back on Wednesday. David Crum. It's going to be a great show, man. If you're not hip, you're going to get it tonight. Full history of the Motorcycle Cannonball. And we're going to go through year by year, look at some great pictures, everything that makes this event the epic tale of man or woman versus machine that it has come to be. Make sure you hit the like and share button. Let your friends and neighbors know we're going live with the Cannonball Chronicles in 3.5 minutes. Team Butts is in the house. David Courier, Joe Sparrow, Eric Christensen. Wow, Rob Nussbaum is wearing flannel. Who figured that? Jimmy Bradley's here. Richard Campbell. Good to see all you guys, man. Wow, the numbers are going crazy. You must have missed this show pretty good. All right, well, listen, 3 minutes. We're going live with this one. Get ready. Grab a cold drink, kick back, relax. Cannonball Chronicles coming up. Robert Ziola, let's get this going. We're 2 minutes out. 2 minutes. That's it. There's the silky smooth vocal stylings of Chris Callan. Listen, I have a face for radio, so I'm sparing you that. You have to put up with my voice. Who's wearing flannel? Let's hear it, folks. Rob Nussbaum. I'm in the flannel mafia. I'm down. I'm down, buddy. I'm with you. Minute and a half, we're going live with this one. That's just enough time for you to share it. Put it out there. Let everybody know. It's going to be a killer show. You guys are not going to want to miss this. But if you do, or if you know somebody that does, you can watch it in perpetuity through YouTube or any of the social media channels that keep it thereafter. Cole Dysteren from Colorado, Greg Allen, Chase Rider number 32, Walter Benarski, he's wearing flannel, Marjorie Kleiman. This is going to be cool. Minute and a half and we're going live. Can I get an amen? Do I got the amen?
Can I get an amen?
There we go. Wow, I missed you guys, man. It's great. Heather Callan tuning in tonight, watching on the big screen in the living room. If you guys didn't know about that, you can go to the YouTube app, pull this thing up right on your television in the comfort of your own sofa. Mike Jensen checking in. Kim Unruh. Tracy Duck. Lloyd Benson. Man, the entire Cannonball Nation is here, along with the Chase folks. Richard Campbell. Amen is okay. Bass solos, not so much. Hey. All right, man, we're getting down to 16 seconds. Let me cut you guys loose. We'll pull this one out of the shed and get it up onto the road. Let's go live with this week's Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Here we go.
Hey, everybody out there, welcome back. It's 2022, and we're back. New year, new show. I'm Jason Sims, the promoter of the Motorcycle Cannonball. I am here tonight with my lovely wife, LeeAnn. We're also here with our great partners tonight in this show, Source Media and Chris Callan. So we wanted to just start out the new year and come on and chat with everybody about Motorcycle Cannonball. So tonight, we're going to do a real informal dive into Cannonball history and just, talk about what Cannonball is, where it started, who started it, where it's at now, and just go back through all the years, starting with the first event back in 2010. So what do you think we should start out? Should we start out with the history of the Motorcycle Cannonball?
That sounds great.
I'm actually really excited.
The Motorcycle Cannonball is, for everybody out there that doesn't know, it is the toughest antique motorcycle event in the world. What makes it tough is, it's all antique motorcycles and it's going from coast to coast. It's an event that happens every 2 years. The first one started back in 2010, and then just this last September, we did our last sixth event in 2021. So every time it's different challenges, it's different locations, it's different years of bikes. Really, it's a test of man, woman versus machine, and the best two-lane roads of America. It's a personal challenge with people, with their machines and what they can do and the challenges they come up on. So, we'll learn a little bit more about that, as we kind of jump into things and go through the years. The people that aren't really that familiar with what Cannonball is and what it's about, I think with the videos that we show you tonight and the pictures that we show you, I think it'll show a really great representation of the event itself. And, we're happy to share some stuff with you. So let's get into why the Cannonball was started. So the premonition of the Cannonball was really an idea of, the tribulations of Cannonball Baker. Cannonball Baker, he was, one of the most famous people back in the day for record settings, for point-to-point drives. He was a guy that was paid to promote what he was testing and driving across the country.
What year was that?
So he really started back in like 1907-ish in that area, and then continued all the way up into almost the 60s when he died at the age of like 75. So
1907 is early.
It is. So in the early teens, he was out there. I think he actually crossed the country like 143 times.
We're almost there.
We're getting close. So I think out of the 143 attempts, he logged about 550,000 miles total, going from coast to coast.
It's impressive.
He works for the likes of Indy and Stutz, magneto companies, chain companies. He put the stuff to the test. And, really the premonition of the Cannonball from the person that actually started the Cannonball, it was one of his lifelong heroes. He did a lot of research on him. And, so that's kind of why the event was started was, to pay homage and tribute to Motorcycle Cannonball Baker. So, Cannonball Baker's a man, I think,
So Lonnie was inspired by him.
He was. So the Lonnie Isom Jr. was inspired by Cannonball Baker. And he was the person that started Cannonball. This idea came to fruition back about 2009. He had come up with this idea and started talking to many different friends, from swap meets to different places that he was going. And he had this idea that, I want to put this ride together in homage to Cannonball Baker. we'll call it the Motorcycle Cannonball, and we'll just take off from there. And
can we do it though?
Yeah,
that was his big question. Can we do
exactly,
this?
Exactly. And that was one of the big things. I mean, something like this really had never been done. I mean, there was AMCA road runs, and there was, different little runs here and there, but nobody had really taken a group of almost 100-year-old motorcycles at the time. I think, the first event at 2010 had to be pre-1916, so all the bikes were 1915 and older, and so almost 100 years old, and they nobody really knew what was going to happen or if anybody was going to show up. So he actually put it out there, built a website, put it out there, put it in the AMCA magazine, took off for a week to go fishing down in Mexico or something like that. When he got back, there was so much interest in the event and people that wanted to know about it that it had crashed the website. His email was full, his inbox was full. And
knowing Lonnie, I bet he just loved that.
So I'm sure it really overwhelmed
his anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, he had put this thing together, and that's where it started, was back in 2010, and we'll start the Motorcycle Cannonball there. Throughout the thing, we'll kind of talk about what Lonnie's visions were on some of the events, what he wanted to see happen with the event. He never really thought that after the very first event that this would ever happen again, but as this group of people in 2010 kind of marched across the country and it started getting notoriety, the train just got in motion, and it became bigger and bigger. And, so we'll talk about, maybe through some of how his feelings were on some of this, some of the time that we've spent with him, talking about the event and, his vision. So, I mean, we got to spend a lot of time with him being local to Lonnie and Sturgis. Mm-hmm. And, he was a good friend of mine. And, we chatted a lot about Cannonball, had a lot of visions and stuff like that until, unfortunately, his death in 2017. So anyway, we want to just kind of, like I said, informally put some stuff out there for you guys, give you some history that you guys might not know. I mean, I know even a lot of the guys on the Cannonball this year, on 2021, they might not have known really what happened back in 2010. So we're just going to put it out there, like where we went, the kind of miles and some of the stuff that happened. So,
well, I think this is great for us too, because you've been doing so much research and stuff, and just even going back to 2010, we don't have all of the records anymore. So we've had to, a lot of people do stuff, research and investigate on our own, just to kind of recreate records, going back to them, because as you said, he didn't really think this was going to be a continual thing, so there wasn't a lot of record keeping.
Exactly. So it's been fun putting it together, and then doing the research on the last few events, trying to take stuff that happened in 2010 and 2012, improve on it and make it better, and then try not to duplicate also. So, and that's really kind of what the Cannonball is about. It's about, charging forward, new challenges, new sites, no new 2-lane back roads, and like we always say, it's man versus machine, and it's about the next challenge. So
let's start with 2010.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Where did we go?
Anyway, the first Cannonball started with 45 riders in 2010, and that was started in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and the destination there was Santa Monica, California. Now, back in 2010, on the first event, had 45 riders that showed up on pre-1916 motorcycles. Over there, there was 3,294 miles total on this route. Looking at some of the statistics on this thing, out of the 45 riders, there was actually 10 people that created perfect scores on that one, which is which I think is pretty remarkable for those older bikes and people not really doing it and so forth.
And not knowing what it would take to do
exactly.
it. They had no idea what it would take to get a bike across the country.
Right. And I think as we go through the years and we're sharing some of the statistics with you of how much maybe there was some progression of people and builders starting to figure out exactly what needed to be done to make some of these Jurassic machines get across the country. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so we had 10 people that achieved perfect scores. That year, the overall winner of the Motorcycle Cannonball and the overall winner of Class 2 was Brad Wilmarth on a 1913 Excelsior twin, which was great. So Class 1 winner was Katrine Beener on a 1907 Jap. So the 1907 Jap is actually still to this date the oldest motorcycle that's ever competed in the Motorcycle Cannonball. So going back to the first year still holds.
I don't think I know what that is.
Well, it's a non-American motorcycle.
This is the same thing with all you chase riders that tell me, I ask you what the model of your bike is and you say a knucklehead. I don't know what that is. You have to specifically tell me the model. So usually, I should have backed up here a little bit. The Cannonball is usually broken into 3 different classes. You have Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Now, these tend to change from year to year, depending on the year of the bikes, what we're a requirement for that. So everything's a little bit different from year to year. So this particular year, we had 3 classes. Class 3 winner that year was Rick McMakin on a 1915 Harley Davidson. So top 3 guys, and check this out. I mean, Class 1, they didn't even achieve perfect miles on that, So, I mean, They just happened to be ranked high enough in their class. I think she missed about 400 miles or so and still was able to take a class at that time. So cool.
I want to also talk about some of the unique things that we see on these events and during that Cannonball. And, what comes to unique to me would be motorcycles. So one of the things is, you see the Harleys, you see the Indians, and, I think 2010 was actually one of the years that had one of the most unique groups of motorcycles, from the 1907 JAP from Katrine had. It was the first time and the only time that we've seen a flying Merkel that Ed Zalonsko had a 1915 Militaire, 4-cylinder, center steer, crazy machine. Jim Denny brought that to the game. We've seen the likes of 1913 Sears from Matt Olson and Bill Nugent. And then Pete Young brought a Premier, which, I'm still to this date never seen one in person. So, I mean, the event like this,
people were brave.
They were. And what's cool about this is, and part of what Lonnie's vision was is to get these motorcycles out of museums, to get them out of people's garages and get them back on the road. So, normal people would be able to see these things, and not just see them in a museum. So, we see a lot of unique things, over the course of Cannonballs. So, I think anybody that you'll ask that the 2010 Cannonball was probably the best Cannonball ever. Why is it? Well, it's a first year event. It was done something that nobody's ever done before, I mean, and there's no way to really compete with that, I mean, we try to every single time outdo the next event. And, we always look back to 2010 and man, I wish we could be that first event because this might be the best event ever, but, so giving back to 2010, these guys, I think all 45 of them just to show up are true heroes in my book.
Oh, absolutely.
So, so after the 2010, Lonnie really didn't know what was going to happen. And, the success that the event actually brought, after that, phone started blowing up again. Hey, I've got to be a part of this. I got to come to the game. So he had put together the team again to start on the 2012 Motorcycle Cannonball that would start in Newburgh, New York at Ted's V-Twin and end in San Francisco, California. So this year allowed 1929 motorcycles. 69 riders showed up to do the 3,956 miles.
A lot. That's a lot of miles.
And to this day, the 2012 course is still
That's
the longest course to be done. So we've come close a few times.
Mm-hmm.
We've had stuff as rain delays and stuff like that have taken across the whole entire mileage. So, so yeah, 2012. How many riders do you think got perfect score that year?
15.
Well, you're close. So 19 riders in 2012 achieved perfect scores that year. Now you start looking at the numbers, the percentages, and really 2010 had a better percentage of finishers to the number of people. I think we see more riders, a little bit more different type of bike came out. People getting into it that may not have done anything like this before, been skilled builders. And, normal people are coming to the game now. And, and I think that's why we see that like that. So in 2012 Brad Wilmar came back and back-to-back won the Motorcycle Cannonball. Still to this date, it's the only person that has actually won twice. So, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment to come back.
Yeah.
Back to back and achieve that. So we've seen the Class 3 winner that year was Frank Westfall, and he was on a 1924 Henderson. And then Class 1, which had single cylinder motorcycles in it at that time on that class. Class 1 winner, Tim Crane on a 1927 BSA. And there again, Class 1, a really tough class in the Motorcycle Cannonball. Jim fell 400 miles short of achieving a perfect score on that one, but was still class winner, because he was still at the top of that class. So some of the notable machines that I think we've seen this year was the 25 Rudges that Mike Wild and Ken Ashton rode. Of course, who could forget Chris Knoop on the 1925 Invisible Jap, and Paul DeOrleans on a 1928 Velocette. So just some kind of weird, unique things that you don't get to see very often. For the most part, the Harleys, the Indians, and all that. So
I think 2012 was my first experience with the Cannonball because they came through Sturgis.
They did.
And you made me go. And I had no clue what was going on. You picked me up after work. I did not share your affinity for this event. I had no idea what was going on. But once we got there, and I was like, what the heck?
Right.
What are these people doing? What are they doing on these bikes? It was kind of cool.
Right. And in 2012 was kind of when I got my feet with it. I had heard of the event after the 2010. I think I had read an article like in Bike World or Thunder Press or something like that. I'd read about it. I didn't know about the event when it was actually going on. I'd read about it after the event and said, man, I got to get involved with this thing. Lonnie's local to me. I really got to get involved with it. So, I befriended Lonnie. We'd known each other and hung out here and there, but, I didn't know behind the scenes. I thought he was just this quiet, shy guy working in his shop. I didn't know that he was out doing events and stuff like that, or an event like this even happened.
You said quiet, shy it.
So yeah, I got involved. I immediately talked to Lonnie, and I got put on the waiting list for the 2012 event. Lonnie gave me a call, I think 60 days before 2012, and it told me, hey, if you still want that shot, we've had a spot open up, and anybody knows that 60 days is clearly not enough time to get prepared for something like this. So unfortunately, I had to decline, being able to participate on the 2012. But, I started talking. I said, hey, the day off is in Sturgis. I said, let me help you. I said, I want to host these guys. I want to do something big and grand and do something that hasn't been done for the group yet. So on the day off, we planned this big party out at the campground at Glencoe. And, we had a live band and we roasted pigs, and I think we had bison and steaks. And, we went all out. We gave free drinks, free food. I think we fed about 400 or 500 people that night. And, we just made them feel welcome in Sturgis, and gave them an experience that, hey, you guys are appreciated for you guys actually going out and doing this and letting people witness this. So, so really cool. That's what got me started. And from then I was hooked. So, so anyway, that brings us into the 2014.
2014.
And, so I'm fully involved, at Lonnie's shop weekly, talking, trying to get insights of what's going on and, what do I need to know? I was nervous, I had never done anything like this. And, so I got the machine, we got it all dialed in, and, that took us the longest. I don't, you could tell I was gone for probably 6-7 months, just trying to put this machine together, and get prepared to do the start in Daytona, Florida. And it was by far, still to this day, the craziest thing that I've done is, take this 90-year-old machine to Daytona, Florida, and think I'm going to get across the country on it.
And you didn't.
And I did. So anyway, back in, like there was 101 of us that year in 2014. Ooh. And like I said, we started in Daytona Beach, Florida, and our final destination that year was going to be in Tacoma, Washington. Second longest route to this date, at 3,938 miles. This year was one of the years that we let the most amount of people in, being what was I going to say?
I don't know. You said 101 riders.
Oh, yeah. So this year would be the amount that we would let the most amount of motorcycles in. As far as year-wise, the cutoff was, 1937. Yeah. So 1936 and earlier was able to compete. This was the first time that we've seen recirculating oil machines, out there. So that year, 24 riders achieved perfect scores. Overall class winner that year, which was a class 1 winner. Now, granted, when we start talking class 1 a little bit later here, when it gets really exciting, is this particular class 1 was based on CC. So the smaller the CC ranked you into the classes from class 1, 2, and 3. So this year, a 1924 Indian Scout was the winner with Hans Kortz navigating that thing. So first time we've seen a class 1 winner, and also, a bike that was a little bit older. Class 2 winner that year was Dean Borgione on the 1923 Harley Davidson JS. Class 3 winner was Jeff Tiernan on the 1919 Henderson 4-cylinder. Really fun year. It was just great diagonal across the country. We had a lot of great times on that one. Some of the more unique models this year, of course, were the two 1936 Harley Davidson Knuckleheads that Sean Dugan and Bill Buckingham, rode across the country. 1931 Moto Guzzi by Giuseppe Savorte. The 1924 Moto Guzzi from Ciro Nizzi. This one's way, way cool. Something that this was the only time I've ever seen one in my life, is the Polish So Cool 1000 that Bartek brought. He smuggled that thing into the country just to get it to this ride. Super, super cool story. You guys can check it out with our interview with Bartek on a previous Cannonball Chronicles. Of course, this is the first year we've seen the 1933 Bruff, probably one of the most expensive motorcycles that's ever been in the competition, with Paul d'Orleans and Adam Stolberg. Getting that thing across the country was a sight to see. You know, I mean, machine like that was impressive. We also had the team of Moto Ferreras with Sante Mazza and Claudia Gonzarelli. And then this was the first year, which was a big thing for Cannonball Baker. Cannonball Baker loved the air car. He had a lot of testing with the first year in the air car with Bob Addis. A really, really unique machine. Crazy, crazy thing. If you don't know this, look one up. Do some research on it. You won't even think this thing's a motorcycle. It looks like a little Vespa or something. So this thing was unique. I mean, this particular motorcycle would do like 30 miles an hour, and it would only have enough power, like with the batteries and the capacitors or whatever the thing ran on, to only make it about 250 miles a day. And of course, our routes are usually a lot longer than that. So we, one of the first times that we actually allowed them to have their own support crew, you know, because
on the route.
Mm-hmm. You know, typically, you know, on the Motorcycle Cannonball, we don't allow anybody to have support crews on the route. You can have a support crew, but you can't be on the same route as you at the same time. So they got to leave before you in the morning or leave after. They actually have their own set of routes to get to the destination city that night. So this was the first time that we actually allowed a support crew, just because how slow they were, and, you know, that they would be tying up the sweep truck on a daily basis. So just one of those things that we wanted to see the thing on a ride. It was a sight to see, and so we allowed it to happen. So really, really cool. Really cool. So that brings us to now to 2016. And this is where we come in really full force. So back in the 2014, you know, I was really helping Lonnie a lot out on the event, you know, helping them organize some stuff, getting across on it. And, you know, just, and a lot of it, I was just doing volunteer, you know, just, you know, I wanted to see the event succeed. I wanted to see it grow. And it was something that Lonnie wanted. He wanted to see the event grow and become a little bit bigger, a little bit more notable. And, you know, he just didn't have the personality to kind of really go out and do that. And so that's where I stepped in. You know, I've been doing events almost my whole life, organizing things, you know, different motorcycle rallies and, you know, stuff for Sturgis. And it was, okay, let me step in and help you out a little bit. You know, immediately after 2014, we had found out that Lonnie developed cancer. And, you know, and this is when we started talking full time, like, you know, hey, you know, let me come on and help you out and partner up. And, you know, so we immediately after the 2014 Cannonball, you know, we came on board as partners with Lonnie Isom to help, one, take the event to the next level. And then two, if something were to happen to Lonnie at the time, because we didn't really know what the prognosis was, to carry on the legacy of the thing. So anyway, we started out with 2016, and this was probably one of my favorite events. I think it's, to me, besides the 2010, I think it's one of the most historic events in the Cannonball history. This is what we called Race of the Century. So in 2016, we started with almost 100 riders in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and with pre-1917 motorcycles. So this was going to be the first. The 100 riders would come on 100-year-old motorcycles and race across the country. And, you know, I mean, still to this day, I get goosebumps thinking about that. This was a group that was going to do it, and there's no way that anybody can ever take that from us again, because that's really etched in time now. That, you know, we were the first group of people to actually do this, and the theory that set, you know, I just remember all the preparations prior to 2016, because, everybody that had done the Cannonball previous were like, you know, they had 1919s and 1924s and 1930s, up to 1936, because that's what we were allowed before. And I remember a lot of people before we announced the event, like, hey, I went out and bought a 1934. I'm going to do the next Cannonball. And, you know, behind my breath, I'm thinking, oh, shit, you know. So anyway, so we announced the event that, hey, you've got to have a 100-year-old motorcycle or older. And this set a fury in the market. I mean, everybody was out there trying to scramble to find pre-1916 stuff. You know, luckily at that time we had the E.J. Cole auction, you know, which brought a lot of, you know, pre-1916 motorcycles to back into the market. You know, swap meets were bigger than ever. I mean, I get a lot of mail, even to this date, to say, hey, man, just because of your guys' event, the prices on this stuff is ridiculous, you know, now. So, which is a good thing, and you know, and for some of us collectors, it's a little tough that way too. So, but anyway, super excited on the event. Like I said, we started in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Our final destination was going to be Carlsbad, California. We had almost 100 riders that year, 3,300 miles right in there. So this year, with even that many riders, pre-1916, we only had 16 people that year achieve perfect scores. Which,
well, that was tough.
It was tough because lot of people, you know, one, try to find parts for this, try to find extra parts. You know, some of this stuff, when you do break down on the road, you don't have enough time to get it fixed, to get back on the road, to make it in on time during that day. So seeing a lot of catastrophic failures this year. But we've seen a lot of people cross the finish line too, which, you know, I think it's one of the ones that we've seen one of the most people cross the finish line in fashion. So this year, our overall winner and Class 2 winner on a pretty unique motorcycle was Frank Westphal on a 1912 Henderson, 4-cylinder, pretty unique machine. It also made my unique machine list for the year. So Class 1 winner was a 1914 Harley Davidson single with Dean Borgione. Now, this was one of the first times that we had ever seen a single cylinder, you know, especially a belt drive, perform this well. I mean, to see something like that, I think we had a few single cylinders that year, and just to see them actually, you know, make it into the top 10 of the riders was an amazing thing to watch. And the struggles that they went through, you know, just to keep these machines on the road. Now, granted, you got to look at a 1914 Harley belt drive single. You might be doing 35, 45 miles an hour, you know, across the country. And, you know, you're not getting the extended gas breaks, you know, you're not getting the extended lunch breaks. And, you know, I mean, you're to the ground. You got to take every single minute that we give you during that day to get information. And that part, these guys, you know, you've seen a lot of these guys push themselves physically.
Oh, yeah.
You know, by pushing these things up the hills, you know, pedaling them up the hills. You know, I mean, and that in itself is a true challenge.
Oh, of course.
So, yeah, Class 3 winner this year was Steve DeCosa on a 1915 Harley Davidson. Steve was a first-time competitor in the event. Did really, really well. So some of the unique models, like I said, the 1912 Henderson with Frank Westphal. We've seen the group of Thors with Doug Feinsaw, Jersey John, Joe Gimple, Dan and Todd Kraft. Those guys were a huge sight to see going across the country. I think they were some of the most well-liked people. So get this next motorcycle that we'll talk about during this event this guy is absolutely freaking crazy. But he brings a 1913 Shaw. Now, for you guys out there that know what a 1913 Shaw is, it's basically a bicycle with a half a horsepower pedal assist motor on it. And this guy was crazy. I mean, I wish I would have wrote down how many miles he got there, but I know he did better than half of the miles. So you can see on the picture right here, this is the 1913 Shaw. You know, it might be one and a half horse thing, but Brant Hansen basically peddled this thing across America, which, you know, unbelievable. So other things we seen were that most people don't see was a 1913 matchless from Hans from South Africa. The 1913 Douglas from Steve Alexander. We've seen a 1911 Reading Standard from Norm Nelson. And this by far beats everybody's most unique motorcycle of the Cannonball. I still don't know what this damn thing is the 1914 Warwick from Mike Carson. It was this crazy three-wheel tiller steer contraption.
It kind of looked like a tractor.
I don't know what I still don't know what the thing. I still don't even know if it's a motorcycle. I mean, it ran on a 1915 Harley Davidson motor or something like that.
It was in
the thing was insane. It was obnoxious. It was really cool looking. From what I heard, it was the sketchiest thing ever to be on the road.
It was kind of crazy.
He didn't make too many miles on it. He elected to switch out a different bike for safety purposes. But if you go back, look up the 1914 Ward. You should be able to Google it online and see some of the crazy pictures of it. The thing was totally insane.
You know what people probably don't know about 2016 is that at the same time, we were also for about a year planning at the same time a car cannonball.
We were. I forgot all about that.
Oh, that was a nightmare. We were going to do one day we were going to do motorcycles, and then a car cannonball would start the following day
Right.
and follow us around the country so we could use the same hotels
Right.
2 nights in a row. And that became a huge part of your car would also have to be 100, and that just became an absolute nightmare. So we went back to motorcycles.
And back to where it should be. So now to elaborate on that a little bit, you know, we wanted to put this grand event together with the likes of cars and motorcycles. And at first it would be, all right, we're probably not going to get that many motorcycles just because the fact that it's going to be 1916 and earlier. So it's like, maybe if we get 40, 50 motorcycles at the max, you know, we'll take another 40 or 50 cars. So, you know, the first inception started out like, we'll do half cars, half motorcycles, all pre-1916, and we'll bomb across the country. Well, within, I think, 7 days of opening up the 2016 Cannonball, we had sold out of spots. I mean, people were finding that stuff and they said, hey, we're not missing this for the world. So we had to scramble and think of stuff. So that's why we went to 2 days. And then, you know, unfortunately, Lonnie's health took kind of a turn for the worse. And, you know, we wanted to just concentrate on him, making him, you know, calm and, you know, not having to be stressed out and, you know, make it about him and just make it about the Motorcycle Cannonball that's already been successful. So we scrapped the car thing and probably made one of the best events of the Cannonball.
And he rode that as a competitor, not as.
He did. So he actually came to the dance with as an actual competitor, not as a staff member. You know, he came there just straight to bring his motorcycle, and he had a 1914 Harley Davidson single. So he'd been working on that bike for almost a year leading up to the event. So it was cool, really cool to see.
He did make it a couple of days.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
So. And then, you know, of course, with his health and stuff, I mean, he was unable to continue with us, but watched, you know, the whole entire thing from the house and, you know, with the media coverage that we had on it. And, you know, Facebook was getting big at this time, you know, that he was able to actually almost watch in real time of what was going on. So. And
that's when he came up with the spirit of the Cannonball Award.
It was. So,
from watching.
It was. So him just seeing her, you know, he could tell who was really getting into it, you know, who had the spirit, who was out there to fight the fight. So, and that's where we coined the Lonnie Isom Jr. Spirit of the Cannonball Award.
Mm-hmm.
So super cool award. We'll talk about who got that on this ride and then on the rest of them. So anyway, we did those teams. So we never did say who got the Spirit of Cannonball award that year. So that year happened to be Dean Borgione on the 1914 Harley Davidson single, you know, and I think that was really a hands down, you know, clear cut winner on that. I mean, just watching him get the fight every single day, get that thing across the country like, you know, nobody else had. So anyway, we get into doing the next event, you know, and it's always a challenge after you get done with the event. You know, within the first month or so, everybody's like just grinding you for the information and what are we going to do and what are we going to do? And, you know, even before the event's over, we already have an idea what we're going to do for the next one. I mean, we've already been planning what we're going to do, you know, the years of bikes for the most part. But, you know, I've already been working on a route in 2016. I've been working on the 2018 Cannonball route for 3 or 4 months, you know, prior to even having the 2016 event. So it really truly does take us about two and a half years to really to work and put one of these events together. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to everything, and you know, just to really make it first class, it really takes that amount of time. So and no different, you know. I mean, even when we get into it, you know, 21, I've been working on, you know, what's coming in the future. You know, I've been working on it for over a year now. So anyway, so we get into 18, which I think a lot of people think was very symbolic. Probably one of our next better rides, and that's where we started in Portland, Oregon.
No, Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine, and made our way to Portland, Oregon. Yeah. That year we had 107 riders on pre-1920 motorcycles, and we went 3,441 miles. Now this year, get this, so people are really starting to figure it out. You know, the builders know what they're doing. They're making parts that are lasting in the machines. The manufacturers, you know, such as Competition and, you know, some of these other people, you know, they're making parts to last because they know, hey, these bikes just ain't going in museums anymore, you know, or auction bikes. You know, these things are actually being, you know, ridden. So anyway, we had 45 people this year achieve perfect mileage, which I think with the route that we had, you know, going over Glacier, you know, the extreme colds that we had, the rain, you know, everything that we went through this year, to have this many people achieve perfect mileage is pretty remarkable. And then we actually had, on top of the 45, I mean, 45 was competition perfect score. Mm-hmm. On top of that, we still had another 5 people that still made all the miles, but they had penalties or got in late or something like that. So 50% of the people killed it.
That's amazing. When we were at the awards ceremony and you were naming off everyone that, didn't we have coins? Mm-hmm. Perfect mile coins, and you just kept calling people up and calling people up. I was like, we're going to be out of coins. We didn't order enough coins. Everybody did so well.
So I think I ordered 50 coins because it was like, no way that we'll have 50 people. I mean, I'm going back over the statistics over the years and like, I'll order 50, well, you know, I'll burn the rest of them or whatever. And, you know, I think the very last day, day 17, we had 51 people still with perfect miles. And I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I mean, not to say that it was lucky on my part or that I wished it on anybody, but I think there was one person that missed the miles on the very last day to get them out of the perfect thing. And so a little bit of information there. So anyway, Dean Borgione comes back and moving Cannonball. This is the first time that we've seen Harley Davidson single class 1 bike actually make all the miles and become winner of the Cannonball, which is truly impressive.
Yeah.
You know, when you see these machines, I mean, if you've seen that in one of the hosted stops along the way, or, you know, actually watch some of the videos or see any of the photos, I mean, you can attest that these things are insane. And like I said, 30 to 40 miles an hour all day, you know, I mean, that's really impressive. I mean, that's really, truly a challenge. And, you know, I think what Dean did in 2016 and 2018, you know, really stepped up the game with a lot of riders, you know, leading in to this last event. You know, I think the push on singles and knowing that stuff like this can happen, you know, I think has pushed a lot of people to say, hey, I think I can do that. And, you know, I want to take the next challenge and try to migrate that way. So, so another first for this year, which was pretty cool, our Class 2 winner, Fred Wacker on a 1913 Indian Headstrom. Now, this was the first time that what we called the Headstrom code was broke. So in any of the prior events on Indian motorcycle that's pre-1915 is Indian Headstrom. They're real finicky. They got really bad valve towers and, you know, manifolds, and not one pre-1915 Indian had ever achieved a perfect score in any of the Cannonballs. And Fred this year on the 1913 finally broke the Headstrom code and achieved perfect mileage that year, which is unbelievable. I still don't know how they did it, because, you know, we've seen the struggles and the problems with them, you know, throughout the last 5 events before this. So got to give it up to Fred on that. That was quite a feat. So Class 3 that year was again Steve DeCosa on a 1915 Harley Davidson. So we see a lot of different unique models this year. We finally see some triumphs with Paul Warrenfield, Adrian Lockery, and Ari Redling Eyes. We see the group of Nortons, Team Norton, with Richard Asprey, Chris Parry, and Keith Martin. First time we've seen 1928 Ariel with Charles Falco. Again, the nearer car comes back, but with a different navigator. So Bob Addis gives up his nearer car to Ben Pierce to navigate across the country, and Ben did really, really well on it. Again, we see the Bruff Superiors. We actually seen 2 this year. You know, like I said, one of the most expensive motorcycles in the world. Paul d'Orleans and Brian Bozier bring back the Bruffs, and they charge across the country. And then we see another Thor. The Thors are always fun to watch. So a good friend of mine, local friend here, Paul Jacobson, takes the Thor across the country, and unbelievable. So, but so yeah, there's that. So that ends the 2018 Cannonball, and we start planning for what was to be the 2021
The
Cannonball.
2020.
Yeah, 2020 Cannonball.
We do it every 2 years.
So we do it in 2 years. Get a full field of entrants, you know, right away. Cannonball fills up. You know, we're going full speed ahead, and, you know, even into 2019, you know, we're good. 2020 comes along, you know, all the way up to June. We're gonna do it no matter what. And unfortunately, with current events, with going on in the world at the time, you know, the best decision at that time was to postpone the Motorcycle Cannonball, you know, until the next year. Same date, same everything, same route, and you know, just to try to make it safer. You know, there was a lot of people that didn't want to work with us, hotels, you know, that were closed down.
Yeah, well, John Klassen was going on his final course run,
Right.
and he encountered hotels that were closed and places, restaurants were closed. I mean, it was just, we wouldn't
Right.
have any lodging in some of these
Right.
cities.
A lot of the places that host us, you know, some of the
They said no.
dealerships, you know, some of the cities, you know, they were devastated, and, you know, and some of them to this day are still out of business. So, you know, unfortunately, you know, I think it was the best decision to move it to this year. So, and, you know, moving it to this year still had its problems, as far as logistically trying to put the thing together. I mean, we're still running the same problems with hotels, people that are really a little bit devastated and everything. And, but hey, we did.
High five.
We got 88 riders there, which I think is very, very impressive.
Yeah.
So we started this year in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and our course was to South Padre Island, Texas. So
this is the first year you've done north to south.
It was. So.
And people were people upset about that?
I think a few people were upset about it, but I don't think they really know.
Announced it, do you know who was upset about it?
Who?
Me. Do you remember? I said, this is a crappy idea. Don't do it. But I ended up loving it.
I think, a lot of people, if they actually sat down and listened to the reasoning behind why we did this, it was.
What is it?
It's one of those things, and this was something that me and a lot of talked about probably 4 or 5 years previous, just different things that we could do, we wanted to incorporate this 3 flags from, Mexico to, Canada to Mexico type of thing. And, I still wanted to make it coast to coast. So it was one of those things that I had to get really creative. How do I make this thing a coast to coast and, incorporate it north to south and maybe add the 3 flags in there at the same time. So I come up with this all right, let's start at the Canadian border. Let's try to get as far as we can up there. Now, where we started is actually considered the 4th coast. So
that's what you always say.
A lot of people don't realize it, but it truly is. It's really called the 4th coast. We made our way out to the East Coast in Myrtle Beach, landed there for a day, and then made our way to South Padre Island, which is in the Gulf Coast.
Well, real quick, tell people why we always go east to west, because we get a lot of
that's a great
questions
question,
why we go west to east.
Yeah, that's great, because I know that'll come up in the questions here later. So there's quite a few reasonings behind why we always go east to west. The biggest thing is weather. So if we were to get in a weather pattern, we would get through it faster than, say, we start in the west and we'd have to follow the weather or stay in the weather all the way going across the country. So one of the biggest things, and of course the other time is the setting suns and the sunlight, and then losing hours per the day. So it just works better logistically to go to east to west. So maybe one of these days we'll get creative and do a west to east just to break the mold. And we can't. That's Cannonball. We're here to break rules.
Oh, I don't like that.
It's about challenges, so we got to make our own challenges sometimes.
We'll talk about that.
So
anyway, we had to plan it twice.
We did.
And that was not only heartbreaking for us to have to make the announcement that I'm sorry, we have to postpone this, but then we had to do everything again.
Right.
Roads change in a span of 3 years. We had to re-go on the routes. There's, roads change. Hotels had to be completely redone. Hosted stops had to be completely redone. There were several hosted stops that did not come back on board for the reschedule.
We had some cities that we had to move because hotels were closed.
Yeah, we had to move a couple cities. In one city in particular, we still went there, but we had to have riders find their own accommodations. Mm-hmm. They just simply would not renew our contracts.
Right.
So there was a lot of work that we had to...
I think we went on a route 5 or 6 times on this last one, pre-planning, doing things. And so we got to know this route pretty good. So I know, when we landed in South Padre Island, it was probably the biggest weight taken off our shoulders ever was, hey, we finally got through this thing when everybody said that we couldn't do it. We did it, and it was because of all the riders, all the support crew, the hosted stops, everybody made this last year a huge success.
I think it went amazing.
I think so too. So we've seen some pretty crazy things. So, we did, like I said, 88 riders. We logged 3,389 miles. Now, that's kind of an asterisk because we should have had a few more. We actually had, for the first time on any one of the events, we actually had 2 rain delays. So we had one day where we had to call it off halfway through.
In the middle of the day.
In the middle of the day because of flooding roads and extreme weather. And then come back a day and a half later after we take our day off in Tennessee. You know, we're greeted again after our day off with another torrential storm, you know, the remnants of the hurricanes that were moving up from the south. So first time that we've had to actually call off riding twice, which is, you know, is really a bummer. And it's something that we don't really never want to do. I mean, in spirit, we always want, you know, to ride, and, you know, we've ridden in rain a ton, we've ridden in extreme heat, we've even done snow. I mean, we've faced all the elements. Mm-hmm. And facing the elements is what the Cannonball is about. But, you know, it gets to a point that you do have to, for safety reasons,
it's unsafe.
You know, that you do have to make decisions like this every once in a while. So, anyway, we got through that. Like I said, every other year prior, we've always had some day or half a day that we've missed because of it. But this was the first time that we've ever had 2. So this year we had 33 people achieve perfect scores. So I think this year, in my opinion, I think this was one of the years that we've seen the most attrition with the riders. I think we've seen the most amount of catastrophic failures. We by far seen the most amount of accidents, you know, and that's really unfortunate. I mean, that's something we never want to see or hear, but unfortunately, you know, they do happen sometimes. So yeah. That's why, you know, we have such a great staff. You know, we have, you know, people like Vicky Spitfire that we bring along to administer health and watch over people. We train all our staff and volunteers, you know, and accident management and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we try to take these things because they, unfortunately, you know, they do happen. So luckily, you know, we have Vicky on board to help guide us through that. So
yeah, her training is great. I mean, if you guys, I know a lot of you out there have taken some of her courses. They are well worth it. Jason has used the skills outside of motorcycling, just like even accidents at our campground or just other things. So it's well worth to learn that.
It is. So if you don't know, you can go to our website, motorcyclecannonball.com. There's a link at the top to Road Guardians, and you can get a whole bunch of information there. So, we had 33 perfect scores. 33 perfect scores. This year's overall winner and another Class 1 winner and another first-time breakthrough was Dave Courier from Fargo, North Dakota on a 1911 Harley-Davidson belt drive atmospheric valve. Now, that in itself is crazy. So that's another code that people have been chasing over the last 10 years is, can they get an atmospheric valve across the country and achieve a perfect mileage in the same time doing it? And Dave came back this year and smashed it. I mean, he absolutely, you know, took the challenge seriously, came out and, you know, did everything that you're supposed to do, you know. I mean, before the event, I mean, I've never seen anybody be so prepared as Dave Courier. So really fun to watch. I mean, it's been fun.
I saw a lot of discipline in him and his team. Very serious, a lot of discipline, but also enjoying himself at the same time.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
always had a smile.
I bet if you ask him that stuff down, like
he doesn't remember that.
So no, very. I mean, hats off to him. I mean, that was a feat in itself. You know, I think what was supposed to be the 2020, now in the 21. You know, after the 18 and the 16, you know, the 21 really brought a resurgence of the singles in. So the early American singles, you know, I think at one time we had 30 some people signed up to do class 1 single cylinder bikes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with things shut down, machine shop shut down, changes in life, some of these people weren't able to bring some of these machines to the dance. But I think people
Where do you think that phrase came from, to the dance? Does anybody know? I'm just real curious because I hear that, and it means a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for someone to comment on what.
So
Class 2 winner.
Class 2, Jeff Kiernan on a 1912 Henderson. Seems like Jeff's always one of the top people up there. Really, really great guy. And Class 3 winner this year on a 1915 Harley, Burt Miskell. So
he really put a lot into it this year too.
Right.
Yeah, I saw him out there too.
So I think, this year to me, as far as the uniqueness of the motorcycles, I don't think was necessarily there like a lot of last events. We've seen all these weird brands. I think about 90% of the motorcycles that showed up this year were, Harley Davidson, Indian, Henderson. We really have those weird off brands.
Mm-hmm.
We did see the singles, which I think everybody was really trying to do. I think everybody was trying to focus on bringing the Class 1 single cylinder bikes. We've seen the Near car come back, but not just the same Near car. They brought back a different Near car, an actually competitive Near car. So, and was back on that. He was able to complete almost every single day on that thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were rooting for him to hopefully make perfect miles, and he came super, super close. I think he was down to about 8, 12, or 13, where he finally had a catastrophic failure and was able to fix it that day, but came back out on the next day and finished the run. So hats off to that. It was really, really cool to watch. Of course, seeing people like Doc do it again on a sidecar. I think he's done now 3 times perfect score on a sidecar. That's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, that's a feat in itself to pull a sidecar across the country and get perfect mileage, and he's got the extra weight of the sidecar, but Doc took it to another level and added a passenger in it at the same time. So you got that. So it's just fun to watch different little things like that and different people. We seen Buck and Nikki ride 2 up, get a perfect score.
Nikki.
That was fun to watch. Just things that haven't been done before in a motorcycle cannonball. I mean, that's.
But you know what was, I think, the best part of this year? Honestly, everyone was so happy.
They were.
Don't you think?
I think so. I think they were just happy to be there. They let go of what was happening in their professional lives.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys that compete in this event are business owners. They're executives. And they're very happy with what's going on in the world situation right now. So I think just giving away for that short time, like I said, I think everybody was happy. I didn't see anybody really bitching and complaining, and it was good. I mean, I think everybody kind of knows what's going on in the world, and people accepted it and were reasonable. And some of the gas stations only had 1 attendant. There's 30 people in line, and I didn't really see anybody blow any gaskets on it. The hotels may not have been as clean as they usually are, and but we got through it, and to me that's part of the challenge. So,
it is.
So it was great. Hands off. I mean, we're glad that we got through it.
So what do you got coming for 2023? Because you've had your map open for
as you know,
a long time.
For about a year now, I've been working on this, and also our other event, the cross country chase. So I'm constantly looking across the country on what to do and what next challenge to bring to everybody. And I know everybody's been really anxious to hear what's next in both categories.
Do you think you're a little obsessed with it?
I wouldn't call it. If you're in love with it, it's not being obsessed.
It's an addiction.
Hey, it's better than crack cocaine, right?
Full addiction. Yes, I agree.
All right, cool. I could be doing that instead.
No.
So anyway, so I've been working on this one for a long time. You know, I wanted to really challenge myself to put something together that, you know, would stand on its own. Just like all these events, each one of these events has its own history, it has its own set of stories, it has its own set of people. And I don't really want to rewrite any of that. You know, I don't want to repeat any of that. And it's really not the nature of the Cannonball. It's not in the spirit of it. And it's, you know, it's something that Lonnie never wanted. You never wanted to repeat a route. And it's one of the most asked questions that we get all the time. Well, why don't you go back and do 2012? Or why don't you do Portland to Portland? Because that was epic. Or, you know, and it's just like, really in the spirit of the Cannonball, to me, it's not that. You know, the Cannonball is about new experiences, new challenges, new motorcycles, new people, new hosted stops, and you know, really that new challenge of man versus machine. And you know, if you repeat and you redo stuff, then it just becomes a tour, you know, and that's not where we are. We're not a tour. So
there have been several cities that we have had to repeat just
Right.
because of the location.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we've repeated the route.
No, exactly. You know, we would take a different route into there, and you know, so I've really just strived to take what I've learned over the last, you know, 10 years or so, and challenge myself to put on one of the best events that I could. And I think
spill it. What is it?
I think that's where we're going. So 2023, I am putting it out there that you know, I think this will be probably one of the best events to come forward. So we'll be starting on the East Coast again and going back to the West Coast, because I know you all like that West Coast, that coast to coast. So anyway, I've decided to start in Virginia Beach, Virginia. We're going to make our way across the country, and the route that I've really put together with the hosted cities, the hosted stops that we have on board so far are truly unbelievable. I mean, for one, this is going to be the most scenic route that we've ever done. It's probably going to be one of the most challenging routes that we've ever done, as far as, you know, doing different elevations, you know, just being in the most mountainous countries, the most curviest roads. You know, I'm going to put you in the deepest, darkest tunnel there is this year.
With a notice.
You know, I want to spend the most time in the Rockies that we've ever done.
Some desert.
The desert. You know, we're going to experience it all. I mean, it's really going to be a challenge for any rider, no matter if you're on a Class 1 single-cylinder bike, or you're going to be, you know, on a 1932 flathead, you know, that everything's a cheater bike. You know, it's going to be challenging.
What
for
are the
everybody.
years? What are the years?
So we've stepped it up.
Okay.
We've adopted the thing that we're going to go or 90 years and older for a while. So this year is pre-1933, which means if you have a 1932 or older, you'll be able to compete in the event. So
do I have one of those?
You do.
Oh.
I'm actually building it right now.
Rob, I'm not going to ride ever.
So
I'm better at home.
So anyway, I've been working hard for about the last 6 months, you know, really putting this thing together. Registration on the 23 will actually start the middle of this month, I think the 24th or something like that. Within the next week, we'll start sending out the official submission forms for everything that people have committed to come back on ride. You know, I know we went out to the waiting list also. You know, I know we're going to have some immediate openings for everything. So, you know, we're really excited. You know, we're looking at migrating and making some changes. You know, looking at a different handicap structure for things. We're bringing in some technology with GPS locators and an app that will be ready by the next event. You know, and this is a project that I've been working on for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always progressively thinking ahead and bringing it out there. And within the next month, 60 days, we'll be rolling a lot of information out there for the people.
It's been pretty fun since we, have kind of maybe announced it a little bit or anything like that. Cities that would be potentially along the route have really reached out to us. Hosted stops, potential hosted stops have reached out to us. I think that, people see what a great family event this is and they want to have us. And we have had a lot of inquiries and I think that is amazing.
So one of the things I want to do, I wanted to go back to one of our most favorite stops of all the Cannonballs. And so I incorporated us to get back to the Twisted Oz in Augusta, Kansas. A fellow Cannonball rider, Kelly Maudlin, has a museum there in Augusta, Kansas. And, I wanted to make sure that we got back to that place, being one of our best stops. And the good thing is it's actually going to be on our day off. So we'll actually have 2 days there instead of a day. So I know the Kansas people at all the Kansas stops have always been very gracious with us. Kansas has just a great motorcycle culture there. And, we're excited to go back there. So I'm excited to start announcing some of the other stops. We're doing some places and going to some places that might not be necessarily motorcycle related. Some people that want to host us that I think will be an experience for the riders. I'm anxious to announce some of those. I've got a few other hosted stops on board that I'm anxious to announce, and I'm anxious to get back on the beach.
That'd be great. I'm a little chilly here in Arizona lately.
So, but anyway, what you can see from us in the future here is, trying to preserve, the legacy and the history of the Motorcycle Cannonball. That's our biggest goal is to keep moving forward, trying to bring the best events that we can for there. Not just for the riders, but the experience for the general public, you guys coming out there to see us at the hosted stops, following us along. You guys killed it. I think we had 8 million views on Facebook alone, with you guys following around, and that's unbelievable. So, we appreciate all of you guys' support out there and preaching the good word of the Motorcycle Cannonball. And like I said, it's our duty to keep the spirit and the legacy alive. And that's what
we're doing that in one of the ways that we're doing that now, which is something I'm really excited and so proud to be a part of. For both our events, also the cross country chases, we've partnered with All Kids Bikes or All Kids Bike to help sponsor and fund these kindergarten programs for kindergartners to learn to ride Strider bikes. And we just feel this is so important. I don't know the exact statistics, but there are so many children that never get to get on a bicycle. And we're helping fund get these Strider bikes into kindergarten PE programs. And these are the next generation of motorcycle riders.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are so excited about this. Strider is local to South Dakota, right? That's where it's based out of. So we've always known about Strider. We've, worked with them a little bit in the past, and now we're full-on partners. And I think it's amazing.
Yeah. So we've actually, to this date, raised enough money to fund 4 schools, which is amazing. And I just got a call yesterday from a cross-country chase rider that he wants to fund a school for our honor. So
that's amazing.
So we'll be putting that one together here pretty soon. So 5 schools where we're putting bicycles back in the schools, which is amazing.
It's so amazing. And this is the legacy. This is just people and motorcycling and those future enthusiasts and getting the skills, I think it's
And even
amazing.
outside that, I mean, a lot of people that know me out there, know that for the last 3 or 4 years, I've really been preaching this, move it forward to the next generation. So I've been out there, hustling people to say, hey, I know you're getting old or not old, but older, and, you might not be able to ride that motorcycle again on the next event, but, why don't you take that motorcycle and, give it to a younger person, not give it, but mentor them.
Mentor them.
Right.
Teach them how it works, how to fix it, how to ride it, and be their mentor.
Pass the knowledge on,
Pass
the passion on, of what we live for, antique motorcycles and, riding them across the country. So, it still gives you the chance to be involved in the Cannonball, to help them out, be the support crew, like you said, mentor them and get them across the country, So last year, there's a great fun event together to put 3 kids on a cross-country chase. We're planning on, rolling that into the Cannonball and hopefully on the next chase to, we've had great success with people donating motorcycles and people donating money to help pay entry fees and expenses to get the younger generation across the country. And it's fabulous.
I think it's great.
It's great. So if I'm out there preaching, that's what I'm preaching. So and like I said, it's time to move it to the next generation and get the younger people involved. So
should we take questions?
Yeah. Let's get to some of the questions.
We see some questions already.
So I'll kind of go through here. I do have some questions from earlier. So like I said, one of the biggest questions that we have, and this came in this morning, is why have we never repeated any of the routes? And I kind of went over that earlier, that, in true Cannonball spirit, it's about new challenges and new places and, going to new places.
There's still so much more of the United States. We got to see more.
Got to see more. This next one, I'm already got it. All right, so question came in. Who is a rider that has been on the most Cannonballs? So there's actually a tie on that. So we've actually had 3 people that have competed in every single one of the Motorcycle Cannonballs. That would be Shinya Kimura from Japan. We've got Frank Westfall from Syracuse, New York, and Doug Feinsod from Santa Cruz, California. So all those guys have competed in every single one of the events, which is unbelievable.
I know.
Really unbelievable. Those guys are nuts. So
they're crazy.
But it's the next question: what motorcycle been on the event the most? And that would be Shinya Kimura's 1914 Indian Headstrom. He's had that one on every single event, and he's probably rebuilt it 3,000 times. I'm not kidding. This guy can do a full rebuild in a parking lot at nighttime and be back on the starting line in the morning.
Him and
They are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So let's get to the next one here that I got written down. So who are the people that have traveled the furthest on the Motorcycle Cannonball? So we'll talk, there's kind of 2 parts to it, or the way that I interpret it. So anyway, we've had the furthest on the Motorcycle Cannonball. We've actually had a few people that would leave from their house on their bike and go to the event. One of those was Doug Wathke. I think he did that in 2012. He went from from his house in Florida up to the top and then rode home afterwards. And then Kelly Maudlin from Twisted Oz on 2018 rode his 1927 Indian to the starting line in Portland, Maine, and then rode it home back to Kansas. So pretty impressive. That's a challenge in itself right there, and I give it up to him. So, but the other interpretation could be, where's the furthest person from? So, I mean, we've had riders from Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Japan, the UK, really Germany. We get them from all over the country.
All over the world.
Yeah, I think it was at one time I figured out that we had, I think, 27 different countries represented at one time or something like that. I don't know if that statistic's right or not, but it's somewhere in there. So, so a question came in on Facebook that asked, who is the oldest rider to ever compete in the event? And that would actually be on this last event, the 2021 Cannonball. And he's been the oldest rider on the 2021, the 2018, the 2016, and maybe the 2014. But that would be Victor Bucock. What was he? 80? No. I don't remember how he was. I don't want to mess it up, but he was the oldest person and on the event. So.
And did he meet all his miles this year, didn't he? No?
This year, I don't remember.
I don't either.
I don't remember. I think he did. He's usually pretty good about that. And Victor's one of those guys that, he does the Cannonball outside of the Cannonball. Before he actually came to the Cannonball, he had taken his 1914 Harley across the country a few times, and then Lonnie seeked him out and said, hey, you need to come Cannonball with us. And, now he's hooked.
Yeah.
I just talked to him for an hour yesterday. Great guy. So he's very, very passionate about old motorcycles and the history it is to get across the country, and the towns that we visit. And, getting back to the route a little bit in the route planning, I mean, that's part of our thing is, just planning historic places to go, going by historic landmarks. I know a lot of times the riders don't pay attention. They're mostly focused on the road, but we do try to put that out there for the people that want to experience it. So, youngest rider on the ride, I think, was last year or 2018. I think it was Loring Hill at 18 years old, and he came back again this year. I think he just turned 21. So we've had a lot of young guys throughout the years. I think 2012 or even back to 2010, Matt Olson, he was a young guy back then. In 2012, Buck Carson came along. He's been, a great asset to the Cannonball and one of those younger guys in the generation, fun to watch. This year we had Keegan Reith, which, was one of those things that his grandfather brought him in, to experience this thing. He's no longer able to ride, the antique motorcycle anymore. So he's bringing his grandson on the thing and having a great time. It was really fun to watch that team this year.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, and just watching the young guys, I mean, that's really, really fun. So
there's a couple questions over here.
All right. So I'm getting to some more of these questions over here. There's a lot of them.
Just pick one. Just pick one.
Oh, this guy, Michael Cardolano. My wife bought me a 42 WLA for Christmas.
No, you're not getting one.
Which my wife would buy me.
No.
All right. So here's a good question from Rob Nussbaum. How do you win a class? Well, so typically the scoring on a motorcycle Cannonball works as this. You get a point for every mile that you make it under your own power. So if the course that day is 247 miles and that day you make every single mile under your own power and get there on time, you get 247 points for that day. So classes are broken into different things. This past year, class 1 was single cylinder motorcycles. Class 2 was, I think a certain CC to something. I don't really remember. I'm working on 23. So, different ways like that. So you get basically a point for every mile made under your own power. If you get on the trailer at mile, 200 for that day, that would be your score, would be 200.
Well, that's kind of how you were mentioning earlier, that some people had made all the miles, but they had a penalty. So They rode all the miles, but if they came in late or had some type of other infraction, left lunch, you get pulled over, you leave lunch early, you have support crew on the route, then you get a penalty. So.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going down.
When will LeeAnn ride as a competitor?
I already already answered that.
As soon as she buys me a WLA.
Never. Never, never.
So here's a good question. Michael Musso, has there been any interest from cable channels like Discovery in documenting the Cannonball? Actually, yes, we've had a lot of interest in filming. A lot of networks have wanted to pick us up past the past years. Really the problem is, and why we haven't done it, is to keep the integrity of the event. You know, it's one of those things that I don't want a film crew to come in and say, you know, hey, can you ride over this bridge 10 times? Or, oh, hey, stop so I can take a picture. And truly the integrity of the event comes first out of anything. And, you know, if a company could come in and, you know, not be part of the event and document it from the sidelines, you know, absolutely, we'd be all over it. But, you know, we don't want to take away, you know, the experience that riders get and the challenge that they get by, you know, having somebody come in and script the whole thing. So just not Cannonball. So sometimes, you know, and that's why we're doing it ourselves. You know, that's why we're bringing in, you know, people like Rebecca to do Facebook Lives. And, you know, we brought in Source Media last year on the Chase to bring in live stuff and then do a documentary at the end of every day. And, you know, I think with social media and everything like that, you know, we can give you almost more content than maybe what a show could do. So, and I still love LeeAnn. I don't want her to go into Walmart and, you know, get mobbed. So
be too famous.
Be too famous. So we love Walmart.
We'd be too famous.
So,
let's do 2 more questions.
All right.
Okay.
Pulled pork. That's a good one. So one of the biggest funny things on the Cannonball
running joke
is a running joke that pulled pork is for every single meal. So, and actually at one time it probably was, because every single hostess stop that we'd go to, you know, of course it's the quickest, easiest, and cheapest thing to feed, you know, anywhere between 150 and 350 people, depending, you know, what we agree to with them. So, once we got kind of going back in 2016, you know, and I heard all the bitching and complaining about pulled pork and, you know, all this, you know, so I started working with all the hosted stops and knowing and kind of helping them set their menus and stuff like that. And, you know, now it gets...
We had some good ones. Didn't we have like a walking taco this year?
Yeah. I mean, we've been to good places where they fed us, you know, fresh fish out of the river that same day.
Yeah, we've had some spaghetti
lobster
and
feeds.
pasta.
We've done a lot of different great stops, you know, big steaks, you know, I mean, they roll out the red carpets for us, but, you know, and now it's to the point that we don't get pulled pork anymore, and now people are pissed off that we don't get pulled pork.
Where's the pulled pork?
So,
you guys.
all right, so here's another one.
Okay, this is our last one. Make it a good one.
So here's a good question from Dennis Stauber. Wondering at what year did you allow newer tire and brake configuration? Really, I think that really stems back to the very first Cannonball 2010. It's been one of those things that, you know, we want you to be safe, you know, so we do allow more modern brakes, a little bit more modern carburation on some stuff, you know, still some up period correct. And then, you know, tires, I think, has been around from the very first one. So that's been kind of around for the whole thing. So here's a good one. David Baird. What is the best advice or words of wisdom or both for a first-time entrant to get conditioned for this event? I'm talking rider, not machine. That's a really great question.
Well, in 2016, you did about 6 months of yoga.
I did.
To get stretched out and limbered.
I did. So a lot of it's just, you know, it's mental preparation, you know, getting prepared for the thing. It's getting yourself healthy to be in the saddle for, you know, 10 hours a day, you know, which means stretching, you know, sometimes muscle exercises. And I think the biggest thing is just to be mentally prepared, you know.
You need to be healthy. I mean, you know, Vicky really tries to
hydrated,
keep, encourage that, eat well, get as much sleep as you possibly can, because that's a 3-week period that, if you have a bad day, you can quickly go downhill.
Right.
And your bike could be riding fine, but your body cannot.
Right.
So
here's a question from a Cannonball rider, Mark Tatum. When will we know about 2023 class changes? Some might want to build a bike for a specific class. So I will have that information out by the end of the month. So it's really, really close. It's just under review right now, and we'll make it official and put it out there and get it on the website. So I think that's really it about now. My dog's ready to eat, so I think we'll wrap this up. I want to, thank everybody for tuning in and talking behind the scenes, asking questions, interacting with us. Hopefully we gave you a new look at the Motorcycle Cannonball, let you see some history that you might not have never heard before of, what the routes were, how many miles there were, the overall winners, how many people did it successfully, and why we do the event, why we put it together, and hopefully you see some of the vision and what we're putting together and what will come. And I can't thank you guys enough. I mean, really, the event isn't successful without people like you guys out there, the participants, and really it's the enthusiasts that make this thing successful. So
yeah, we appreciate your support.
Absolutely. So keep tuning in. You can always get more information on our website, motorcyclecannonball.com. We put a lot of information out there on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media worlds. We'll probably start, for those people that were familiar, we'll probably ease back in to start doing some Cannonball Chronicles again, bringing riders back on, talk about stories. I want to do a full 2021 recap show, talking just all about the last Cannonball and the experiences on that. And so, yeah, I want to thank everybody out there. Thanks to our partners tonight, Source Media and Chris Callan out there. Chris, you got anything to add tonight?
No, man, this was really great for us here in the studio. I got to learn a lot about the event. This event has been amazing to watch from the sidelines, to watch it grow like it has, and to hear the evolution of it has been a real treat for us. So thank you guys for taking the time to do this.
Perfect. So, and if any of you guys out there have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message. Email or text is always the best. You can find me on Facebook also. We want to make sure that, new riders, participants are comfortable, and even the general public. If you got any questions on the event or want to know more, reach out to us. We love to talk Cannonball. So
hey, one thing I want to remind everybody of, because you guys will probably be too modest to do this, you can support the Motorcycle Cannonball and the cross country chase. If you can't make it out to the event, if you can't sign up to be a rider, if you can't be a participant at that level, you can help them around the calendar year to keep this great tradition going by going to their Motorcycle Cannonball and chase stores and getting a little piece of this history. And that's just my part. I'm going to put that out there so you guys will get that notice.
I appreciate that. So yeah, and that helps us, with all the merchandise sales, that helps us support the All Kids Bike thing and some of the other charities that we're looking at too. So we take a percentage of all that and give back. So anyway, hope everybody enjoyed tonight. We'll bring you more great content here coming soon. Like I said, if you got any questions, reach out, and I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Travel safe, have a great 2022, and hopefully you guys find great 2-lane back roads. See ya.